Welcome to Reviews That Scare with Jess and Blair. I'm Jess.
I'm Blair.
Blair, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. We are in full swing into our favorite month of the year. We have been beyond busy with
Yeah.
everything scary, and we love it. We
Yeah.
love it. Simple as that. We are also officially on to episode 3 of our Universal Monster Movie Month, and we have a classic to discuss today. But before that, what do you say we chat a little bit about some horror news? Blairski, you want to kick this one off?
Yeah, I got a few things. So announced earlier this week, Miramax has officially won the rights to the Halloween franchise, beating out Blumhouse and A24, and they will be creating a television series.
Quite the bidding war on that one.
Right. I know a lot of people were really hoping for A24. I know the day it was announced, there was a lot of misinformation out there, and I saw a lot of posts saying that A24 won the rights, but in fact, it was Miramax.
I know even I know last week we were discussing it and it looked like A24 was kind of in the lead.
Yeah.
But who knows how stuff like that works? I certainly don't.
It's all about the money, man. It's all about the money.
Yeah.
David Gordon Green and Danny McBride. Okay. So the minds behind the Halloween reboot and Exorcist Believer, they're developing an animated series based on the 1985 collectible cards, Garbage Pail Kids.
Okay.
Do you remember those cards?
I do indeed. I do indeed. Yeah.
So that might be
Okay.
that might be kind of interesting.
Oh God.
My last thing here is just a lot has been released lately on streaming platforms. So there's a movie called Totally Killer, and I don't know if you've seen it yet or not, but I have mentioned this to you before in private.
Right. I was like, where did I hear about this? But you had just told me about it. Yeah.
So I watched that the other night, and it's a lot of fun. It's basically every 80s slasher meets Back to the Future.
Right.
And it's a lot of fun. I watched that on Prime Video. So definitely check that out if you haven't already.
Okay.
Also VHS 1985 on Shudder.
Yeah.
That's out now. I watched that too. I mean, it's good. It's a VHS movie, right? Like it's all over.
It's always, it's fun. I mean, for those of you who have listened to previous episodes, Blair and I are both huge fans of the found footage genre.
Mm-hmm.
And the VHS movies are fun.
They're a lot of fun, man.
They're fun.
Finally, The Haunted Mansion and The Boogeyman, Stephen King, based on that Stephen King short, are both on Disney Plus.
Yeah, The Boogeyman looks scary as hell.
Yeah, I haven't watched it yet, but it's on the list for sure.
And Haunted Mansion is a lot of fun. I went and saw that one in theaters. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, you're telling me it's good. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
The final thing I'm going to mention is I'm not going to talk much about this. We went to Dedmonton just the other night. We're going to be doing a review episode on Dedmonton, but we're going again for a Lights Out event. So we're going to wait till we do that so we can kind of compare the two experiences. But for it was fun.
It's hard not to want to talk about it because that's all we want to do is talk about it. The Lights Out event, of course, is where they give each group a flashlight. Yeah. So it'll be that much scarier. And if nothing else, without giving too much away from this weekend's experience, it makes me even more excited to do the Lights Out event after we've just done it. Yeah,
I think it's going to be quite frightening, man.
Agreed. Yeah.
That's all I have for horror news, man.
Perfect. I've got a couple pieces here. Blairski, you and I are both lovers of horror collectibles.
Yes, of course.
You have a nice little collection behind you.
Yeah, it's growing every month, I guess.
It certainly is. Another piece of iconic horror memorabilia is officially up for grabs. The Freddy glove, worn on screen by Robert Englund in Wes Craven's 1984 classic, A Nightmare on Elm Street, is officially up for auction. Prop Store, a company who has auctioned off horror merchandise from franchises such as Evil Dead, Poltergeist, Friday the 13th, The Thing, Halloween, and The Twilight Zone, just to name a few. We'll be auctioning off the glove with bidding expected to close on Thursday, November 8th. So you still have time, Blair.
Have you looked at it? Like, I'm curious what the bid is.
I
Is it like a
have.
silent auction?
Well, it will come at a pretty penny.
Yeah.
Do you want to take a guess at what betting is at currently?
I'd say maybe around the $20,000 or $30,000 mark.
You would be wrong, and you would have been outbid.
Oh boy!
Because currently bidding has exceeded $100,000.
I mean, that would be pretty sweet to have the original Freddy Krueger glove. That would be a sweet thing to have.
It apparently comes with original drawings, sketches of like the mechanics of the glove as well, which is really, really cool.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. And then finally, sad news, as this past Saturday, October 14th, 2023, it was reported that Oscar-nominated actress Piper Laurie has passed away. Piper Laurie was, of course, nominated for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress for her role as Margaret White in 1976's Carrie.
Yep.
We at Review Set Scare salute you. That's all I have for horror news. What do you say we jump right into this week's episode?
Let's do it.
This might arguably this is the most classic of the Universal classic movie movies. This is the one that really kickstarted this off for Universal.
Yeah.
And today we are discussing 1931's Dracula. Runtime on this one, 1 hour, 15 minutes. Blairski, initial thoughts on the runtime?
I've said it every movie this month. All movies should be this long, man.
Sweet spot. Sweet spot. Yeah. Let's dive right into fun facts on 1931's Dracula. You want to kick this off?
Yeah, I just got a few things. So this is obviously based on the 1897 novel Dracula by Bram Stoker. This is the first movie based on that novel with sound.
Cool.
The first film based off the book is 1922's Nosferatu.
Of course.
Which does not have sound. And that was filmed without permission. I didn't know this. So Nosferatu was filmed without permission, which resulted in lawsuits and an order to destroy all prints of the movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
By Stoker's widow.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. Fun fact, man, for sure.
Really
and then for this movie, Universal Studios paid $40,000 for all of the rights to the novel, to the stage plays, for everything, because they wanted to own everything. So it cost them $40,000.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I think they own, for a lot of these Universal monster movies, I believe they own the rights or the copyrights up until like 2026. So I think the copyrights are coming up to expire relatively soon.
We're finding that with a lot of things, hence like the whole Winnie the Pooh thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Final fun fact is this movie was filmed on the same set as Frankenstein, which we just watched. That was our last episode. And you can really see it in the end of the movie.
Yeah, the staircase.
Really see it. It's all about the staircase.
All about the stairs. Yeah. How much did we love the stairs in Frankenstein?
Oh man!
And they certainly did not let us down in Dracula either.
No, not at all. That's all I got for fun facts.
I've got a couple pieces here. This one is really cool. The original release featured an ending with Edward Van Sloan addressing the audience with what they had just seen. It was taken out for the 1936 release. Edward Van Sloan, of course, went on to also star in Frankenstein, where he opened the movie with the warning to the audience about what they are about to see. I thought that was fantastic. And
it's really cool.
That is one of my favorite parts of Frankenstein. Yeah. And I would have loved to have seen what it would have looked like at the end of Dracula. I thought that would have been really cool.
Oh, hell yeah.
The Spanish language version of Dracula, starring Carlos Villarreal, oh goodness, as Dracula, was filmed at night on the same set as the English language version. So they would shoot the English language version in the day on set, and then they would switch it over with an entirely different cast and film it for the Spanish language version.
All over again. That's crazy.
Although most well known for playing Dracula, Bela Lugosi only played Dracula in one other film, and that was Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein.
Yeah.
That movie just recently played in our city that we live in just last weekend. That would have been a cool one to see.
Yeah, no kidding.
Carla Lammy was the last surviving cast member when she passed away in 2014 at the age of 104. That is 104. But she was also the first woman in talking pictures to have the first line of dialogue in a horror movie.
Oh, crazy.
She played the teenager coach passenger at the beginning of the movie, reading from her book.
That's a really cool fun fact.
Yeah, apparently she would mention that all the time. She was very proud of that fact, which rightfully so. I think
would be,
fantastic.
100%.
Yeah. And then finally, the original Broadway production, the play, premiered on October 5th, 1927, and starred Bela Lugosi, Edward Van Sloan, and Herbert Bunston, all who starred in this movie. So cool.
That's really awesome.
That's all I have for fun facts. What do you say we dive right in to the fine folks who made this excellent classic, starting off with directed by Rod Browning, also directed 1932's Freaks, 1928's West of Zanzibar, and 1936's The Devil's Doll. Also directed by Carl Freund, who directed 1932's The Mummy, 1934's The Count of Monte Cristo, and was also the cinematographer for 1920's The Golem, 1927's Metropolis, and won the 1938 Oscar for Best Cinematography for The Good Earth. Also was a director of photography for 152 episodes of I Love Lucy.
Really?
Completely different.
Yeah.
All the rest of his stuff. This one written by Hamilton Dean, also wrote the 1927 stage play Dracula, which the movie is based on. Also starred John L. Balderston, who wrote 1931's Frankenstein, 1935's The Bride of Frankenstein, and 1935's The Lives of a Bengal Lancer, starring Gary Cooper. This one starring Bela Lugosi, OG Bela Lugosi, as Count Dracula. Also starred in 1934's The Black Cat, 1932's Island of Lost Souls, 1945's The Body Snatcher, 1941's The Wolfman, 1932's White Zombie, and of course, 1957's Plan 9 from Outer Space, just to name a few. Also starring Helen Chandler as Mina, also starring 1931's The Last Flight, 1933's The Worst Woman in Paris, and 1934's Unfinished Symphony. Starring David Manner as John Harker, also starred in 1932's The Mummy, 1934's The Black Cat, and 1935's Mystery of Edwin Drood. I do really like when we're going through who's starred in these movies, because a lot of them starred in a lot of the Universal monster movies.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
We talked about the last episode, just a lot of the same people were involved kind of with all the Universal movies.
Back in the day with the contract player whole thing. Yeah. Pretty cool. Also starring Dwight Fryer as Renfield. Also starred in 1931's Frankenstein as Fritz.
Okay.
1935's The Bride of Frankenstein as Carl. And in 1931's The Maltese Falcon.
That's wild. Finally, I didn't know that was Fritz.
I didn't either. And he was so, and I mean, you can tell he was a total character actor.
Yeah.
Which is my favorite kind of actor. One that you know, it can completely transform into a completely different character. So cool. Finally starring Edward Van Sloan as Van Helsing, also starred in 1931's Frankenstein, 1932's The Mummy, 1932's The Death Kiss, and in 1941's Submarine Alert. Synopsis for 1931's Dracula, courtesy of our dear friends at IMDb. Transylvanian vampire Count Dracula bends a naive real estate agent to his will, then takes up residence at a London estate where he sleeps in his coffin by day and searches for potential victims by night.
Love that.
Pretty cool synopsis.
I love that. Yeah, man.
Yeah, me too. I'm all about it. This leads to one of our favorite segments of the show, Kill Count.
Kill Count. The time of the show we count the kills.
Blairski, do we have a kill count for this one?
Jesse, we don't. We do not have a kill count.
No way.
I have written here, kill count is unknown.
Okay.
As there is a crew. So in the newspaper article, it says there is a crew of corpses found on the boat.
That's
Doesn't
right.
say how many are in that crew.
Yeah.
I couldn't find anything that was like legit online that would say otherwise. And also, half the time I didn't know if the people were being killed or just turning to vampires, or
right.
It's just a little kind of foggy, so no kill count.
So I would say the kill count is anywhere between 1931's Frankenstein and 1994's Mosquito.
I knew that was coming.
Oh goodness, this leads to one of our favorite segments, likes and dislikes. The portion of the show where we talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, and everything in between. Blairski, would you like to kick this off?
Yeah, so I did like the soundtrack at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
That's the only time we really get a soundtrack. And I liked it. It was very much of its time. It was a very 1930s soundtrack.
Apparently it's from the second act of Swan Lake.
Okay.
It's fantastic. Okay. It really kind of sets the mood. I have a bit of information of why they maybe didn't use sound, because that was something I really noticed. I mean, we go on and on and on about soundtrack, about how it adds so much to this movie. And that was one of the things I wish they would have had it. But apparently, like I said, I did a bit of reading, and apparently with talkies still being a relatively new invention at the time, they were afraid that audience members would be confused with why there would be music playing in a scene. And why that music wasn't explained.
Yeah.
So if there was music playing, they would be saying, well, is there are they at a party?
Is there a radio somewhere?
Yeah, is there a radio? Exactly. Yeah. Which I thought was really, really cool.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
With that being said, without the music being played, I kind of looked at it more like a stage play.
Yeah.
Which I enjoyed it more once I started kind of looking at it more like a stage play. I thought it was a lot cooler.
The acting was very much like a stage play too. Yeah. And you said they were all actors from the stage play, correct?
Yeah, Bela Lugosi, I believe, was the first person ever to play Dracula on stage.
Yeah. And his Dracula has become like the Dracula iconic. And it's the same with Frankenstein, right? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
They're the Dracula and Frankenstein that you'll go to Spirit Halloween and find costumes of. You know what I mean?
It's one of those things, like, obviously in Frankenstein, Boris Karloff is so hidden in all that makeup, where Bela Lugosi, I mean, that's Bela Lugosi, you know?
Yeah. The way dogs won. Ha, ha, ha. Oh. Ha, ha, ha.
I thought he was fantastic. There were so many great close-ups on his face.
Yeah.
Obviously there's a lot where he's putting different characters into trances or adding suspense, and I just thought he was fantastic in this one.
I know some of them are for sure different, but I was wondering at a point, because some of those close-up shots almost look the exact same as like a previous one. So I was like, are they just reusing shots? I mean, I didn't really care, but
right. And there was a lot of them. Like, they probably did it 10 times.
Yeah, there was a lot of them.
There's a lot of really cool close-ups with his face as well when he's going in for the bite.
Yeah.
Where he's going in to feed, where it's, it's not a stationary shot, and you kind of see, his mouth flexing, his mouth muscles flexing. It's pretty sinister.
Unfortunately, it always fades to black just before the kill,
Yeah, I'm kind of curious, especially as well as the death at the end of the movie where it's not shown. I'm wondering if they were, obviously the ratings were far more restricted of what you could show.
Oh, I would totally imagine from 1931 to now. Totally different, man.
Bela Lugosi was great. I also thought Dwight Fryer as Renfield was great.
So good. So good.
He was just so wild and manic and crazed. Also, he arguably, besides Bela Lugosi as Dracula, had the creepiest moment of the movie.
Yeah.
I've mentioned this to you on several occasions that it's scary as hell when they're searching for the remains of the crew in the ship and they open up the door to the basement and he's just looking right up at them and like this guttural laugh. It is so creepy.
It's laugh, and he it's crazy how he transforms from the Renfield you see at the beginning of the movie to that Renfield. It's like his eyes become Dracula's eyes. Like in those close-up shots of Dracula, his eyes are so menacing. And then when Renfield turns into a vampire and is laughing, that crazy laugh, his eyes almost have that same look to them. It's crazy.
Absolutely. I would say his character definitely goes on the biggest journey out of all of them. Yeah,
yeah, he does.
Which is great. That Dwight Fryer was fantastic in that role. So good. What else did you like about this one?
Well, I mean, the sets were fun. Fun.
Yep.
Again, it was just very similar to Frankenstein. You could see the painting wall in the background, but I loved it. I thought it was awesome. I did find this movie a little boring.
Yeah.
Just a little bit boring.
Yeah. It's I do like that you're introduced to Dracula right away.
Yeah.
Within the first 10 minutes. And it is a creepy introduction. You get the whole coffin, you get his brides, but I agree. I felt like it was a little slow. Honestly, kind of towards the end. Yeah. I kind of got a bit distracted.
Me too. Yeah, I just realized they never show Dracula's wives ever again.
No, they
or even mention them.
They're showed at the beginning and they're showed when they're kind of closing in on Renfield. And Dracula kind of shoos them away. And then, I think that's the last time we see them.
That's the last time you see them.
He moves to London and leaves them in Transylvania.
What are they going to do?
Oh, goodness.
I did like the way Dracula dressed. Very dapper. Yeah. Very dapper.
Sharp. How about that scene when he's in London?
Yeah.
And he's got the top hat on.
Yeah, the biggest top hat. Like, oh, that's great, man.
One thing that I noticed too is he's always wearing a very white shirt.
Yes.
And what I love, but I'm also so confused with, he's the tidiest vampire I have ever seen in any kind of movie or television show. I mean, there is a scene where he attacks a woman and there should be blood everywhere. And then the next scene, he's just walking down the street, not even a drip of blood on him.
That was
very tidy.
That was a kill, which I didn't know was a kill because the bobbies or like the London police show up.
Yeah.
And if you look at the body on the ground, she's moving.
Yeah.
She's 100% moving. So I didn't know if she was dead or not. I know exactly what you're talking about.
It adds to the campiness of this movie. It does. Which is, I mean, that's where so much of the charm of these old movies lie, is kind of in their campiness.
Yeah.
They're so over the top, and I don't think it's on purpose, but it's over the top in a theatrical way.
It's very theatrical.
We mentioned it in Frankenstein as well. We mentioned it in Creature from the Black Lagoon. We mentioned it in this episode. A lot of these actors were stage performers, and it shows. And it's not a bad thing. It's just different compared to, I guess, today's standards.
I found Renfield specifically to be very theatrical.
Yeah.
Like specifically him. Yeah.
There was also Martin, who was Renfield's kind of orderly. He was the guy with the big mustache and the sideways hat.
Okay. I considered him to be like kind of like a comic relief.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, he was a little bit hammy. Oh my goodness! What did you think of the bats? Whenever Dracula was a bat.
Well, clear, it's just a fake bat on the string. Like it's just the same up and down movement. It was kind of, I found it funny, to be honest with you. I
I
found it kind of
loved it.
hilarious.
Again, it's so tough, and we've said this for movies in the 60s, 70s, whenever,
Yeah.
where it's you kind of got to
30s.
put yourself into the shoes of the people who would have been watching it, where they would have been watching it, what was going on in the world at that time.
Yeah.
I imagine it would have been terrifying, but now it's just, yeah, it's a little bit corny, a little bit cheesy, but we love our cheese.
That's the thing, right? Like it's totally cheesy, man. There's this movie is filled with cheese if we really want to get down into it. But it's not a bad thing. It's not
a lot
bad
of
thing.
charm, a lot of
Yeah,
charm.
exactly, right?
I felt like it was a little bit jumpy. There was some really quick cuts, like we had mentioned with a couple of the deaths. We don't see anything. It just fades to black so quickly. And it left me a little bit confused at sometimes.
Me too, especially at the beginning when it jumps from Dracula's castle to the ship.
Yeah. And all of a sudden I'm just like, wait, is that the same guy? Is that Renfeld?
Yeah.
Like I was a little bit confused because he's so normal. And then the very next scene, he's manic.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a little bit confused at first sight. And I mean, that's how good Dwight Fryer was. He's a completely different person, you know?
Yeah.
Which was kind of cool. Being done in 1930s. And I didn't have this issue with Frankenstein, but I found that the audio wasn't the greatest at times.
No, especially at the beginning. I found it got better as the movie went, weirdly
absolutely
enough.
Which is like understandable. Again, talkies came in and I believe 1929, 1931, we cut him a bit of slack.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, you had mentioned I love the soundstage. I love the campiness in that. Love the aesthetics of Dracula's castle. The coffins, anything to do with the coffins, super creepy. Love the cobwebs. They're very over the top.
Yeah, and the spider, the fake spider crawling up the wall.
The spider. How about all the armadillos in the castle as well?
Right, just the live armadillos.
Apparently, there was a rumor that armadillos were the kind of animal that would burrow into a coffin and eat a corpse.
Oh,
which is, I believe, why they had, was it armadillo or a possum? Either or, but both of them were in the castle.
Yeah, and I think they're related anyway. They're
from the same family.
Exactly.
Did you anything else you didn't like? Anything else you liked?
I've got nothing else written down here, man. No.
Oh goodness. Let's move right along then.
All right.
To one of our next favorite segments, lessons we learned from watching 1931's Dracula.
Lessons we learned from watching. Insert title of movie here.
The segment of the show where we talk about the valuable life lessons we learned from watching said movie. Blairski, did you learn anything from watching 1931's?
Yeah, I learned you must always keep your filthy hands to yourself, as per Renfield.
Yep.
And I also learned if you want to roll into a city or a town and be greeted by everyone who lives there with complete joy and celebration, then you must show up in a 1931 horse and carriage.
Absolutely. What an entrance.
No kidding. No one knows who this guy is.
No.
He just shows up in his horse and carriage and they're celebrating like it's New Year's Eve, man. It's hilarious.
Oh, goodness. Anything else you learned?
That's it, man.
I got a few here. If a local villager tells you not to go up to a castle whose inhabitants may or may not be vampires who take the forms of wolves or bats, who leave their coffins at night and feed on the blood of the living, listen to the villager. Don't go up to the castle. I also have, if you are going to a suspected vampire's castle, wear a crucifix for your mother's sake. I also have wolfsbane can be used to protect oneself against vampires.
Okay, see, I'm confused by the whole wolf and vampire thing, because I always thought it was just vampires, bats, werewolves, wolves.
I was a little bit confused as well.
I also haven't read the book.
Nor have I. Look at us. It's our fault. Finally, a vampire's power can only last from sunset to sunrise. Moving right along to our next favorite segment, Line of the Night.
Line of the night. Line of the night. Line of the night. Line of the night. Line of the night. Line of the night. Line of the night. Line of the night. Line of the night.
The segment of the show where we discuss our favorite lines from the movie. They might give us chills, they might give us the giggles. All we know is that they are our favorites. Blairski. Got a couple favorites from this one?
I do. I'm sure we probably have a couple of the same ones, but I got
sure we
4
do.
of them.
Awesome. What do you got?
Listen to them, children of the night. What music they make, says Dracula. After you hear wolves howling outside.
One of the most iconic lines in horror movie history.
So good. Right after that, with the cobwebs and the spider crawling up the wall, Dracula says, "The spider spinning his web for the unwary fly. The blood is the life, Mr. Renfield."
Ooh,
creepy, right?
So creepy. Oh, that's excellent.
I got 2 more, one more from Dracula, and that goes, it's when he pours Renfield a glass of wine.
Yeah.
But doesn't pour himself one. And Renfield asks, "Well, aren't you drinking?" And Dracula replies, "I never drink wine."
Ooh, yeah, that dramatic pause.
There's that pause, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Last line of the night's from Renfield, and he goes, "Who wants to eat flies when you can eat fat, juicy spiders?"
This is, of course, said by Renfield at the sanatorium.
Yeah, he's in the mental hospital at this point.
Yeah, and what was it? Dracula promised, or he asked Dracula. He said he didn't need like human flesh; he just needed something with blood.
Yeah, he just wanted to eat bugs. Yeah.
Oof. I've got a couple here. Count Dracula, of course. I am Dracula. Love it.
Classic.
Renfield says to Van Helsing, "You know too much to live, Van Helsing."
Mm-hmm.
Love that line. I've got 2 more from Count Dracula. The first, "There are far worse things awaiting men than death." Oof. And then finally, "To die, to be really dead, must be glorious."
Yeah, I almost wrote that one down myself.
There's some great lines, and you can definitely tell that this was written for the stage because those are very dramatic, theatrical lines, and I love them.
Yeah, I do too.
Oh, goodness. Let's move right along to our final segment of the night. I would feel free to call this one our favorite, I think.
Possibly our favorite.
Celebrity Lookalike time.
Celebrity Lookalike time.
The time of the show where we take a look at the cast and discuss their celebrity doppelgangers. A spoiler alert, it usually comes down to the character's hairstyle. Blairski, any celebs?
One character looking like 2 people. I might be totally off on this, but the character of Van Helsing, he reminded me of David Letterman when he was wearing his glasses.
Okay.
But when he was taking his glasses off, he reminded me of an older Malcolm McDowell.
Okay, yeah, I could definitely see that. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I could definitely see Malcolm McDowell. Yeah.
For sure.
Nice.
That's
all
I got. But yeah, David Letterman might have been a stretch. But
Van Helsing's top 10. Yeah. Oh, goodness. I've got one for Van Helsing as well. Shares a striking resemblance to United States 4-star war general Joseph Vinegar Joe Stilwell. Not only do they wear similar glasses, but they both have the same haircut. A haircut so precise, you could set a watch to it.
Oh, you're hilarious, man.
Oh, and then finally, Charles K. Gerard, a.k.a. Martin. It's not so much a look, but it's his voice, his over-the-top voice. It reminded me so much of many of Michael Palin's characters portrayed on Monty Python's Flying Circus. Just kind of over the top Cockney accent. Yeah, it was great. This leads us to our final rating for 1931's Dracula. Blairski, out of 5 extravagant silk capes with aggressively high collars, what do you give Dracula?
Okay, I'm going to give Dracula 3.5 extravagant silk capes with aggressively large collars out of 5. It is a classic movie. I love that. I love the performances in it. It's that part of it's so good, but I did find myself getting distracted. And anytime I get distracted watching a movie, it's not usually a good thing.
Yeah, agreed. You and I both watched this twice.
Yeah, in the same. I watched it twice in the same day.
I knew that watching it the second time, it was because I wanted to. My original rating was maybe a bit low, and I wanted to watch it again because I wanted to give it a higher rating.
Yeah.
But I'm going to have to agree with you. 3.5 extravagant silk capes with aggressively high collars out of 5. This movie is an absolute classic.
Classic.
That's maybe has some slow parts in it. But a fun one to watch nonetheless.
Oh yeah, I definitely enjoyed it. I'm very happy I watched it.
How could we not do Universal Monster Movie Month without doing the one that started it all?
Yeah, right. Well, that and Frankenstein, they came out the same year, but Dracula 1931, was first.
Yeah. Frankenstein was a bit later. Yeah. But both excellent in their own rights. That being said, from Reviews That Scare with Jess and Blair, I'm Jess.
And I'm Blair. Remember to stay scary.
And eat every sandwich. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Reviews That Scare. Make sure you check out our Linktree at linktree/Reviews That Scare. That's linktr.ee/Reviews That Scare, which has links to our Instagram, YouTube, Patreon, Twitch, and many other things. If you'd like to email us, you can reach us at reviewsthatscare@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and remember to stay scary and eat every sandwich. A proud member of Pod Nation TV.